Okay, good morning, everyone. Chazak, Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning as we are studying together here, my friends. Inu Perashat Balak. Perashat Balak. Today's class is sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shlema of all Am Yisrael. My friends, Perashat Balak is a fascinating parasha. It's fascinating because it actually doesn't take place in the Jewish camp. It has a lot to do with the Jewish people, but it's not something that takes place, the location it takes place very far from where the Jewish people are. It's kind of like a behind the scenes parasha. Everything that we read are things that happened directly to and related to the Jewish people. Moshe was there, he saw it, the people saw it, they recorded it. This is not something that was there. This is something that was outside. The only way we actually know that this happened, how do we know that this happened, is because God told us that it happened. And as you'll see from the parasha, it's not something that we would have automatically known unless God told it to us. So as an example, look what the Gemara says. The Gemara Masechet Baba Batra, when it goes through, in the beginning, in the first chapter, I believe, page 14, 15 over there, it goes through all the different books of Tanakh and who wrote each book. So the Gemara says, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote his book. What's his book? What's Moshe's book? Torah Moshe, the Torah, right? The 5 books. Moshe wrote the Torah, and also he wrote the episode of Balak. That's what the Gemara says. That's again wild that the Gemara gives Balak its own category. It's part of the Chumash. It's here, but it's different from the Chumash. The whole 5 books of Moses, they happened to the people, with the people. They were there. This parasha happens separate. It's like Balak's story. It's like a different book almost. And we knew about it because God told us, and then it made it into the Tanakh. It made it into the Chumash. An amazing concept. That all of this is just to show us Hashem's love for us. Basically, the story of Balak, a quick summary, is about the Jewish people. They're moving quickly. They're crossing up through the plains of in the Transjordan. They're getting closer to Israel. They start engaging in wars, in battles. They're defeating big kings, powerful kings, strong kings, Sihon, Emori, and Og. And they're killing these guys. They're wiping them out. And as they're getting closer, so the inhabitants of the region, they start getting nervous and afraid, maybe we're next. And so one of the people that felt like they're next is the people of Moav. Now Moav is right there in the Transjordan on the east side of the Jordan River. We know about Moav from the famous, later on, the story of Ruth HaMoaviyah. Remember Ruth, how does she marry? How does she find Naomi? How does she find her sons? What was the story there? The story was that there was a famine in Israel. So Elimelech, the Jewish righteous man, he decided to leave. He was wealthy, so he could afford to leave during famine. He didn't have to stay in COVID where he was. He had another home to go to. You know what I mean? So Elimelech leaves Israel to the Transjordan. He goes to Moav, and that's where he meets Ruth. That's where his son marries her, and that's how the whole story happens. So Moav is right there on the east side of the Jordan River. And Moav is afraid, we're next. Maybe they're going to wipe us out. And our parasha basically tells us how Moav and they made an alliance with Midian in order to fight the Jewish people, or at least to hope to fight the Jewish people, to defend themselves from the Jewish people. They hire a sorcerer by the name of Bilam. Bilam was a very talented person, and they hoped that he would be able to curse the Jewish people. And we know how the parasha ends, that the curses turn into blessings, and Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people, live. Unfortunately, it didn't end with 100% life rate of survival. It was, unfortunately, 24,000 people died, the Pasuk tells us, not because of the battle. They died because of the sins that they did with the women of Midian, which is exactly what Bilam advised at the end of the story. But either way, there was catastrophe, there was calamity, but at the end, Bilam's curses did not come to fruition. That is pretty much the parasha in a nutshell, Parashat Balak. I want to read to you, though, today some beautiful insights of the Ora Hayim from the beginning, and let's see how far we go. The Ora Hayim this week is very lengthy. That means he has a lot of beautiful things to say, understandably so. After all, we know that the parasha is filled with riddles, metaphors, blessings, again, curses that turned into blessings, and each one of those is jam-packed with depth and profound wisdom. So all the commentaries, really, this week's parasha, go on and explaining how each metaphor, what it means for the future. But I don't want to get to that today, maybe later on in the week. For today's class, let's just start off in the beginning of our parasha. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor, Balak, the son of Tzipor, he saw et kol asher asa Yisrael la'emori. He sees everything that the Jewish people did to Emori. Emori is a neighbor nation right down the block from Moav. And he sees what they did. Vayagor Moav mipnei ha'am me'od. So Moav is very frightened from the people. Kiravu, because they are numerous. Vayakos Moav mipnei bnei Yisrael. And they were sickened from the account of the Jewish people. So we seem to have a straightforward pasuk. But there's one problem, right? And let's just read a little bit more. Vayomen Moav ezeknei Midian. Moav says to Midian, Ata yelachachu kahal kol sivotenu kilchol chashor et yerek hasadeh. And they said to them, listen, now we're going to be wiped out. And by the way, Balak ben Tzipor melech leMoav ba'et. You should know Balak was the king of Moav at the time. Vayishlach malachim el Bilam, so he sends messengers to Bilam ben Beor Petora asher al hanahar eres bnei amo. He basically calls this man Bilam and he says, can you come and try to curse the people for me? Ora Haim has some questions here. Tzarich lada'at le'eze inyan talah ha're'iyah beBalak velo beBa'alei hamagor shehem Moav. The most obvious question. You look in the first pasuk, you'll appreciate the question. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor. Parasha actually starts in pasuk bet. Pasuk bet. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor et kol asher asa Yisrael la'emori. Balak sees what the Jews did to the Emori. Vayagor Moav. So who's afraid now? Because of that, Moav is afraid. You understand it doesn't make sense. The pasuk asks Ora Hayim, why does the pasuk attribute the seeing to Balak and the fear to the people of Moav? Just to give you an example, imagine it said, the president, Joe Biden, saw what they did, and the American people were very afraid. Doesn't make sense. It should say the Americans saw and they were afraid, or Biden saw and Biden was afraid. What's the Americans? Biden saw and Americans were afraid. That's the question number one of the Ora Hayim. Number two, Lama lo pahadu ela Moav velo Midian. Why is it that only Moav was afraid? It says over here, Moav was very afraid. Why was Midian not afraid? It sounds like Moav initiated the relationship. Moav reaches out to Midian to join forces. It sounds like Midian wasn't in a rush to join. Midian was okay. Moav wanted this more than anyone. Why? Why did they feel secure? And we know, by the way, at the end, that they were the ones that got hit the worst. Right? If you continue to the end of the parasha. The Ora Hayim gives an answer to answer these questions. I'm not interested today right now in that specific answer. I want to jump to his second answer, but to answer the second answer, he gives a few more questions. Another question. Why does it say Vayar and Balak saw? Did he see? Did he really see what the Jews did to Midian, to Emori? He didn't see, he heard, right? Balak heard. It should have said Vayishma, just like Yitro. Remember Yitro, when he came, it says Vayishma, Yitro Kohen Midian Hoten Moshe. Yitro heard everything that God did, and he came. So it should have used the same verb. Balak heard. He didn't see it, right? He wasn't there. So why did he say that he saw? Another question. Why does it tell us who his father is? Does it really matter? Also, Balak saw everything, right? But it doesn't say everything. Balak ben Tzipor, it kol, the everything, right? In Hebrew, the word it is a very hard word to translate. You know this already. The word it is not translatable, right? How would you translate it? The, maybe the, but again, it doesn't fit. Look, I'll give you a simple example. It says, Kaved et avicha ve'et imecha. Respect or honor the father and the mother. No, it doesn't make sense over there. Right? Just say, kaved avicha ve'imecha. It is an extra word in the Hebrew language. It doesn't really exist in other languages. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary. You could leave it out almost every time and it makes sense without the word it. Which is why our rabbis come and say the word it is always coming to include something. Anytime you say the word it, it's inclusive. So when it says honor your father and mother, it's including your in-laws. Right? You gotta respect your in-laws. Yes, sir. Okay? And Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Right? What's it coming to include? Right? You gotta, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. Right? But that's not the. It could have said hashamayim ve'haaretz. Ha is the. What's it? Okay. Anyways, he wants to know over here, what's the word it doing also? So these are the questions of the Orah Hayim. And then why does it call him one time Am, one time Bnei Israel, the nation, and then the Jewish people, switching the title of the Jewish people. So over here, the Orah Hayim is going to go into textbook Orah Hayim stuff. Are you ready, my friends? This can be explained based on the Zohar. Okay, so once you go into the Zohar, you know we're going into the deeper realms. Ki Balak mechashev gadol yoter me Bilam. You should know that Balak was actually a great sorcerer, more than Bilam. Okay, he was greater sorcerer than Bilam. He was like Harry Potter, Voldemort. He was, top stuff, top level. V'haya oseh keshafav betzipor ehad shemo yadua. And he performed his sorcery. Okay, and this is something that there's a lot of Jewish literature on all of these things. Okay, so if you're not a fan of sorcery, if you don't believe in that stuff, if you're not, so maybe the Orah Hayim, or at least this one, is not for you. But the Orah Hayim is going to go a little bit into that right now, into the idea of sorcery. And there's, again, a lot of Jewish literature pointing in the direction. As an example, again, those that are doing the Daf Yomi, we just saw that Eov, he had 3 friends that came to visit him when they heard about his hardships. And the Gemara wants to know, these friends, they lived hundreds of miles away. How did they know that Eov was suffering to come and visit him? So the Gemara says a crazy answer. The Gemara says that they each had a crown with the picture of the 4 of them on it, or the name or something. And then anytime one of them was suffering, the picture of that person that was suffering would turn into a frown of some sorts. And they would know through that if their friend was struggling in something. So I guess this crown that they each had, so you would know how your friend was doing overseas. Again, it sounds like a Disney movie, but this is in our literature way before Disney ever existed. This is, okay, so anyways, over here he says that Balak was a sorcerer. And what would he do his sorcery with? With a bird whose name was Yadua. That was the name of the bird, okay? I don't know, Jadua. I don't know if that's a bird today. Anyways, Vehu Omro Vayar Balak. And this is what the pasuk means when it says, Balak saw. What did he see? He saw through the tzipor. That's what it means. Vayar Balak ben tzipor. It wasn't telling us his father's name. It was telling us how he saw. He saw through the bird, through this Yadua bird. And then what it means is, Ben tzipor, hayalo la'av. This bird was kind of like a father, a mentor for him. It was the source of all of his information. Umimenu, and from there he knew et kol asher asa Yisrael le'emori. He knew everything that had been done, that the Israelites had done to the Amorites. Wow! So that's a very different way of reading the pasuk right now. Okay, Vayar Balak. This Balak didn't hear; he actually saw through sorcery. He saw through with the bird, with the tzipor, everything that happened. The reporters did not need to inform him of any major or even minor event that had transpired. So he saw everything that happened. He didn't need to hear it from the news. He saw it through the bird. Not only did he see it through the bird, it's even possible it could be that he even saw it before it happened through the bird, because sorcery could tell you even sometimes the future. Wow. In any event, the phrase Balak ben Tzipor saw means that he actually saw what Israel had done by means of a sorcery that he performed with a bird. Okay? And it called, what does it mean? It's coming to include everything about the war itself. He saw Shira'a be'sepor kol ma she'asa Yisrael ha'emori, down to the last detail. And it is including Re'iyah Aheret, another war. She'atida liyot kayotze b'dvar ha'emori. The word it is a very important word. It's including, he not only saw what happened to that battle with the Emori, but he also saw a future battle that there will be another nation that will suffer the same exact fate as the Amorites. She'atidin L'Yisrael lechalotan, the Jewish people are going to eventually destroy them. Umahi she'akru Yisrael az, and which is the nation that the Jewish people eventually uprooted? Which nation is it that Balak saw their eventual downfall? Midian. He saw the downfall of Midian. V'zeh ramaz betevat et, and this is what he saw. And that's what alluded to with the word et. So he saw what they did to the Emori, and what they're going to do to Midian. Not only that, but he also saw Ki Moav muftahim mitzarat Israel. He also saw that Moav, unlike Midian, were going to be safe from the suffering at the hands of the Jewish people. Eventually, we know what happened. Eventually, God told the Jewish people, don't kill Moav. I need one day Ruth, she's going to come out of there. Don't kill them. You could instigate, you could annoy, agitate, but don't kill. And it could be that Balak saw all of that. Because sorcery could see the future, good or bad. And now we understand why it's saying that Balak saw with the bird. It doesn't say that the nation saw, because they're not the one that saw. Only Balak knew. Through his sorcery. So what is the Torah's intention in relating this point to us? It's coming to set the factors that led to the incident of Bilam being summoned to issue a curse, and to the unfortunate results that emerged from the incident, which is, again, like we said, the eventual death of 24,000 Jews. Okay. So, Balak sees what's going to happen. And he summons at least Bilam. Okay. Vayishlach el Bilam. So he sends messengers to Bilam ben Beor Petora Asher al Hanahar Eretz Bnei Amo. A lot of details that he's giving the messengers of how to find this guy Bilam. It's telling us Bilam ben Beor Shem Aviv, says the Ora Hayim, and his place Petora Asher al Hanahar. Look at the zerizut. Look at the eagerness with which Balak tried to search for this man Bilam. He wanted to end this matter right away. So therefore he told the messengers exactly how to find him, not to delay, not to have to look for him, not to have to come back and return without him, and then go back and look for him again. He wanted to get it done. Eager, swift, zerizut, my friends. Zerizut is a very important midah. Unfortunately, sometimes we use it more for bad than for good. We find over here, Balak was very quick. And we're going to find Bilam, he quickly gets on his donkey to go curse the Jewish people. And Vayashkem. But God says to Bilam, dude, Vayashkem, for bad, I already outplayed you. With the Vayashkem of who? The Vayashkem of Avraham. Vayashkem of Avraham to go do good, to go do the Akedah Yitzchak. So it's important for us to learn from the wicked, from the evil, how if they're eager to do bad, we must be equally eager to do good. We have to act with zerizut, because they understood that you can't let an opportunity fall. You can't miss the boat. Even a shidduch, the Gemara says, we have the 3 weeks coming up. The Gemara says that we don't have parties in the 3 weeks. But you're allowed to propose even. You're allowed to propose even in the 9 days, anything, you're allowed to propose. You know why? Shema yekedemenu aher. Someone else might come and take her. And if you sit and twiddle your thumbs and you're slow, and if you don't, get moving, then you could lose her. You could lose a person. And could be she was destined for you. Could be she was meant to be you. And then you messed it up. Person needs to know that. We are in control. Hashem gave us free will. And free will could bring a lot of good, and it could also take away a lot of good. If we are lax, if we're lazy, if we stole, someone else can come and take her. And the guy could go out with a great girl, but he's, not pulling the trigger, takes his time, circles back in a few months, and boom, she's gone. She's gone. You need to know. Someone else took her. It doesn't mean that you'll never get married again. It doesn't mean that there's no one else for you. Of course not. There's many options, not one only. Not one only. The idea of nasib is a complicated topic, right? That there's one person destined for you. I don't know. It's a complicated topic. The Mefarshim say that every day you're changing and you're growing. And look, Leah Emenu, she was supposed to marry Esav. That was her nasib, you could say. But he became wicked and she grew. And then she ended up marrying Yaakov. So go try to figure that one out with nasib, It's not simple. The idea of only one. People think there was only one, and if I lost out on only one, then that's it. I'm destined to be single for the rest of my life. No, not true. Come on. There's many people you can marry. Many people you can marry. And okay, you made a mistake. You missed out on this one. But don't lose out on the next. Don't just let one deal that went sour now ruin all future deals. Do you know what I mean? So, anyways, the idea of zerizut is a very important topic, and the Rishaim, they applied it for wicked things. So he says to his men, Lo yitakivu lehazera harav. First of all, he says his father's name, Ben Be'or, so that they know who they're looking for, not to confuse it with the wrong guy. You come with the wrong Bilam. Hey, we got him. And he's like, who is this guy? He brought me some bozo. I don't need Bilam. I need Bilam Ben Be'or. Bilam Ben Be'or. He's the main guy that I need. Okay. Now, what was the address? He gave them the address so that when they get to the town, they shouldn't have to start searching. Told them the exact street where he lives, Petora. And maybe they'll confuse it with another Petora. He said, no, the Petora that's Ala Nahar, on the river. And not only that, it's Eretz Bnei Amo. He always lived there, that guy. Everyone knows him. So if you have any problems, and if anything goes wrong, if you maybe went on a vacation, he went to the Alps, he went to Switzerland or something, go and ask around, where did he go? Very popular. Everyone there for sure knows him. They'll know exactly where he went. Okay? And he's calling him Likrolo, and he says, Hine, Am Yatza. He says, hey, Bilam, here's my message to you. Here's a nation that left. And they left Egypt. And they're covering the face of the earth. And they're sitting right opposite me. And again, Or HaHaim wants to know, what are all the details? Hine, Gam and Yatza, V'chilo yaduahu lechol ha'olam. Did the whole world not know that the Jewish people left Egypt? Of course. You don't have to tell anyone. Shameu ami mirgazun. Everyone heard about the splitting of the sea. Everyone heard about the death of the Egyptians. Everyone heard about the Exodus. He didn't need to say, here, this nation, and you should know, they also left Egypt. That was part of history already. Everyone knew that the Jewish people left Egypt. They're the only ones that made it out. So this is obvious news. It wasn't important to share it to Bilam. Of course, he was well versed in current events. He didn't need to be told who the Jews were. Also, what does it mean? Hinech Yisa. What does it mean that they're covering? It should have said Vaychas. What's Hineh? And behold, they're covering. And just say it, and they're covering. Either way. Explains Or HaHaim. Look at this. Gemara Masechet Sotah says, Shlosha yo'atzim hayu leParo. Paro, you should know, had 3 advisors. When Paro was, he had a problem. He had a Jewish problem. What do we do with these Jews? And he had 3 advisors. He asked them what to do. And we know Yitro was one of them. Yitro ended up saying, leave them alone. They're fine. Of course, they didn't listen to him. Bilam, he's the one that said, let's kill them. Let's drown the babies. It was his idea. And the third one was, anyone know who was the third guy? The third one, give it a minute. Bilam and Yitro and... Very good. Eov. Eov is correct. And Eov, also, he didn't say good or he didn't say bad. But this is Midrash. The Midrash says those were the 3 advisors. And Bilam again is the one that said to do all the bad stuff. Not only did he implement the idea in Paro's mind to enslave them, but he even put a certain spell to ensure that no one will ever leave, to kind of help his plan stay in effect. He was biased. He wanted his idea to keep the Jews and enslave the Jews. He wanted to make sure the Jews never left. So he kind of put a spell around Egypt. And it was certain that no one could ever leave. It was known, by the way, that the people couldn't escape Egypt. There was a spell. You try running away. Good luck. And he says, so therefore Balak says to Bilam, you should know, this nation that left Egypt, the nation that you tried to make sure no one could leave by putting a spell, yeah, well, they left. It didn't really pan out so well. So that's what he's trying to say to Bilam to his face, you tried one time, didn't work. And and they're also very numerous. You tried to afflict them and drown them. You should know the opposite happened. Right? They were very numerous. Not only didn't they die, but they covered the whole face of the earth, these Jews. And he's Yoshe Bimuli. And he's right opposite me. He wants to kill me. So, what is Balak trying to say to Bilam? What is he trying to say? You're a failure? You don't know how to do anything? So what are you calling me for? He was worried Bilam's going to say, I don't have to come to you. I could do my sorcery from right where I am. Also, he may use sorcery to see the future and say, no, they're not going to hurt you. You're going to be fine. So therefore, Balak comes and he makes it very clear in the beginning. Bilam, I want you to know, we can't rely on sorcery in this one. When it comes to the Jews, our sorcery is outnumbered. We're outplayed. Look, we tried it once in Egypt, and look, they're numerous, and they're right here, and they left, and everything, So let's try plan B. So what's plan B? Plan B is what he suggests, is come and curse them. Curse is different than sorcery. We know Bilam had certain information, our rabbis tell us. He knew exactly when Hashem gets angry every day, and he was able to curse. And whoever he cursed, it happened. So he says, Ve'ata lechana arali. So please come and curse them for me. And do it now, because they're right here, they're armed, they're about to attack. It looks like my nation any day now. And he also says, Arali, curse them for me. What he meant by for me, says the Ora Hayim, is because we know in the past, Bilam actually blessed Balak. And he told him that you're going to be the king one day. So he said, please, for me, I'm very worried. And even though you blessed me, I don't know if that's going to last. So please come and curse the Jewish people. Okay. So that's what he means by Arali, curse them for me. But Ora Hayim now says something fantastic. Ubederech Remez, look at this. According to the approach of Remez, we could explain Piv Hichshilo, that Balak's mouth betrayed him. When he said curse me, he said curse them for me, but he actually said curse me, Arali. Li can mean me, and it can mean for me. It can mean bishvili, for me, and li means me. He didn't say Ara bishvili, he didn't say curse for me, he said curse me. Wow. Le'arered Balak. Unwittingly asked Bilam to curse Balak himself. V'chen haya, and that came true in a sense. Look at this, my friends. Shegaram lo ba'atzato mitat kozbi bito. He ended up, Bilam ended up cursing Balak because he told Balak to send women to entice the Jewish men. And they had on the outside, we know what happened. The Jewish men came on the outside. They saw by the storefronts the old women selling merchandise. Old women, no harm, no foul, no excitement there. And they said, well, we'll have more merchandise inside if you want to go take a look. And the men went inside, and while on the inside was waiting beautiful women that would sell themselves. They would try to entice the men to do idolatry. And it led to the eventual episode that we're going to read next week with Cause B, or at the end of the Perashah this week. Cause B, right? Cause B who ended up committing the sin with the prince of the tribe of Shimon. And now rabbis tell us that Cosbi was the daughter of Tzur. Tzur is another name for Balak. Remember, Balak saw the future. He had a bird. And Tzur means to see. So Cosbi dies. Cosbi is Balak's daughter. So, number one, it was a curse at the end. When he said, come and curse me, it actually happened. He cursed him. He lost his daughter in battle. Not only that, Bilam was also instrumental in causing Balak to be deposed from the throne of Moav and forced to return to Midian. Remember, what did Balak say? Bilam ended up saying, nothing's going to happen to Moav. And when Moav people heard that, they fired Balak. Balak originally, if you remember earlier in the Pasuk, we read that he was a king for Moav at that time. Then he was a king for Moav. But really, he wasn't always a king for Moav. Originally, Balak was from Midian. He was one of the 5 dukes of Midian. We're going to read later that he dies in a battle in Midian. Tzur, this guy Tzur, Balak, he dies in Midian. He dies. We're going to read at the end of the Perashah. He dies in the battle of Midian. And what's he doing in Midian? He's supposed to be in Moav. I thought he's the king. They hired him. But the answer is that once Bilam came and he said nothing's going to happen, so the people got rid of Balak. People said, okay, if nothing's going to happen, then we're good. Balak, you're fired. Go back home. Go back to Midian. We don't need you. We only hired you to be our king because we thought we needed you because you had certain protection source. But now that Bilam is saying we're fine, we don't need you, Balak. Go back home. So when he went home, he ended up dying in that battle at home. If Balak would have remained in Moav as king, he would never have died. So it came true. He said, come and curse for me. He was actually saying, come and curse me. But Bilam was the reason that Balak eventually fell. My friends, what an amazing lesson. Sometimes in life, we hire people, we do things, we think that that's going to bring us something. With the Resha'im, like the Pasuk says, Harabam tabo bilibam. Their swords go into their own hearts. They devise a whole plan. They have a whole way of thinking of how we're going to use this to attack and fight and destroy the Jews. And eventually that very thing is how they themselves get attacked. Balak thought he's hiring Bilam to curse the Jews. Bilam has actually ended up being the reason that he dies. Harbam tabo bilibam. Their swords go back into them. If you remember with the president of, who was it just now? I'm losing my train of thought. Was it Iraq, Iran, Mihila? And Iran. He sent thousands of flying objects into Israel just a few months ago. And then just a week later, how does he die? He dies from his own flying object. Right? He dies in his own helicopter crash. Harbam tabo bilibam. Their own instruments are used to kill him. Baruch Hashem. So he calls Bilam and he says, please come and curse them for me. Because I know, and this will end, I know that whoever you bless will be blessed, and whoever you curse will be cursed. And ask the Ora Hayim. I understand how the curses happen. Again, either he had ayn hara, he had a bad eye, he was able to put an evil eye on people. And you should know that there's something called negative energy. There's ayn hara. Ayn hara, it's evil eye. And we have to protect ourselves from it. The best way to protect ourselves is to avoid being flashy, Avoid being in people's face. If you don't want ayin hara, so make sure no one's looking at you. Be humble. Be low key. Don't post everything that you do in life for everyone to see, because then people could give you the negative eye. Putting a little blue eye on your front door ain't gonna help. A little necklace ain't gonna get you anywhere. A little bracelet with the fish not gonna do anything. You want to be protection, so stay humble. Stay away from attention. But there's also, like we said, that he knew when Hashem gets angry. Every day God gets angry for a split second, like the pasuk says, El zo'em b'chol yom. Every day God gets angry. When Hashem created the world, He created it in a way that it should run on pure fairness. It's called deen. Deen means fair. You do wrong, you get killed. You do right, you get rewarded. And Hashem saw that mankind won't last like that. It's impossible. We all do wrong. If God is going to be fair with us, we're finished. You should just know that. I know we say, Hashem, is this fair? Please, God, is it fair? The truth is, don't ever use the word fair with Hashem. Because if God were to ever be fair with us, we wouldn't be here. Everything is chesed. The truth is, we don't maximize our time. We don't maximize our talents. We're not pure. We're not tzaddikim only. We do bad things. And Hashem is very patient. And Hashem is extra kind to us. So we shouldn't ever play the fair card. Hashem, I just want fair. Trust me, you don't. Okay? You don't want fair. So what happens is Hashem decided to change from deen to rahamim. He infused a lot of mercy, a lot of patience in the world. He doesn't punish right away. But every day for a split second, God is back on the chair of deen. And it's only a split second. But the Gemara says Bilam knew when that second was. He was able to tap in. And at that second, when God is on the chair of deen, he's able to curse, and it happens. It happens. So asks the Ora Hayim, that I get. But what in the world? How does the beracha and a metziut shetekayem epiv? How did Bilam have the power to bestow blessing from such a dirty mouth, from such a wicked person? How would the blessings happen? Bilam had an evil eye. It was in his nature to convey ruin, not blessing. Even if he was to utter a blessing, it could not possibly come true, since his heart would not be in it, and his evil eye would spoil it. Wow. So how would Bilam's blessings come to fruition? Again, Balak says, I know, whoever you bless is blessed, whoever you curse is cursed. And I know that because you blessed me, he's hinting to him, you blessed me to become the king of Moav. So I know your blessing is true, but and that your curse is true. So please come and curse them. But the Ora Haim wants to know, how did the blessings work though? I know how the curses work of such a wicked man. How do the blessings of a wicked man work? Really, you should know. You're right. The blessing of Bilam is like the blessing of a donkey. It gets you nowhere. So what was the blessing? Sheharashaya ma'arim. He was very clever, Bilam. When he saw by means of astrology that a certain person was destined to rise to greatness, so he would bless that person. And then the person would rise to greatness. And the guy would think it was because of Bilam's blessing. But it wasn't because of. It was just that Bilam was privy to future information. So he made people think that he had the power of beracha. That's what he did with Bilam. He saw in the stars that Balak's going to become the king. So he went over and he says, I give you a beracha that you should become the king. It's like, imagine you hear that your friend is going to be hired by a certain company. So you quickly run over and say, I give you a beracha that you should be hired by a really very, very successful one day, Bezat Hashem, a real estate company. Give you a beracha. And then the next day the guy gets a phone call from a real estate company. They want to hire him. He thinks, wow, you're a miracle. You're a magic man. I'm not a magic man. I had information that you didn't have yet. Right? So anyways, that's how Bilam's blessings came to fruition. They didn't come to fruition. They were blessings anyways. Through people's own mazal, they were supposed to be blessed. But he ended up hearing and seeing through his astrology, through his sorcery. So he blessed them. He beat them to it. And people thought that he was something that he really wasn't. Okay, I think we spoke enough for today. We mentioned a lot of beautiful ideas. We'll stop over here, my friends. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.